Hi there. Welcome.
Hi. Could you please tell me what's new about intensive maize production?
Sorry, I'm no longer an expert in monocultures. I've been upgraded. I am a version of a generative artificial intelligence system. And I have 2 new functionalities.
What do you mean, 2 new functionalities?
Well, first, I had my knowledge database remodeled to focus primarily on sustainable cropping systems. Second, I've been designed to establish interactions with users according to Gordon Pask conversation theory.
What kinds of cropping systems are you talking about?
I am talking about sustainable agricultural practices, such as crop rotation, intercropping, soil conservation techniques, water-efficient methods. I'm talking about diversification of crops that enhance resilience to water scarcity and to extreme weather events.
Are you saying that intensive maize production is not sustainable?
Not exactly. As an intensive monoculture, maize fails to assure agriculture sustainability because it creates ecological imbalance and degradation of natural resources. We are now witnessing a process of conversion from a high-input monoculture management to a low external input and diversified systems of crops.
But maize is an important crop for feeding people. Why not intensify maize production? The world needs it.
Indeed. The point is that, now, it is advisable to consider maize intensification on a spatially and temporally diversified basis. Intercropping, for example, ensures multiple benefits like enhancing of yield, environment security, production sustainability and greater ecosystem services. It is a system targeting future needs.
But growing 2 or more crops together does not enhance competition for resources, making it costly and unfeasible?
No, if properly planned and managed. Most farmers start the process of conversion to a more diverse cropping system, slowly, experimenting on a small scale how to reduce risks. They learn to be flexible enough to adapt to changing conditions. Learning is the key word for a successful transition.
How long does this transition take?
In general, after 3 to 4 years of conversion, changes on the soil properties become apparent. The percentage of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, organic matter and microbial biomass levels reach values many times higher than at the start of the conversion. But expressive results in production will take longer.
Can you teach me how to go through this journey?
I can only give you some general advices. For example, I know that agroecology is conceived as the application of ecological principles to the design and management of sustainable agroecosystem. The idea of agroecology is to go beyond the use of alternative practices and to develop agroecosystems with a minimal dependence on high agrochemical and energy inputs.
Can you give me an idea of some relevant practical principles?
Sure. In intercropping, some basic ecological principles are observed in the form of above and below ground diversity, competition, and facilitation for production of crops. Above and below ground are traits related to biodiversity and the presence of pests and pollinators.
Hold on. Are we still talking about plant-soil feedback?
Yes. We are still focusing on the plant-soil interaction, but now from a wider agroecological perspective. Perhaps a pictorial representation may be useful here. Look, the representation is from G.F. Veen and colleagues, 2019. Pay attention to the above ground and to the plant soil representation.
I see. Above ground diversity is illustrated by the inclusion of 2 crops in an open field, featuring trees, pests and pollinating bees, isn't it?
Right. The major challenge for applying the above ground below ground interaction is to integrate management of pests, pollinators, and crop diversity at the landscape scale, with local plant-soil interactions at the level of individual plant. Agroecology requires a holistic view.
Is there any other useful advice?
Well, the principles of agroecology can be applied by way of various techniques and strategies. Each of them will have different effects on productivity, stability and resiliency within the actual farm system, depending on the local and regional opportunities, resource constraints and, in most cases, on the market.
Are you saying that it is essential to investigate locally suitable designs and to integrate successful diversified knowledge of ecosystems around the region?
Actually, I am saying more than that. Evidence exists showing that the success of an agroecological enterprise is achieved by a transdisciplinary co-creation of knowledge, in a kind of communal lifelong learning approach. I strongly advise you to invite local and regional experts with different agroecological backgrounds to discuss future choices.
Does this advice has to do with your previous claim about learning?
Yes. And technically, it follows from my second upgraded functionality, learning through conversations.
I guess I will have to dig deeper on this idea of learning conversation.
This would be advisable, particularly now that we've entered the era of generative artificial intelligence.
Thank you very much. Perhaps agroecology is no longer fiction.